The Shadowvale forest earned its name from the bodies it swallowed, and Kelia Razan walked into it like a woman keeping an appointment with death. After surviving a catastrophic rogue attack at 16 that slaughtered her entire pack and left her permanently disfigured, she was driven out as a bad omen. She now takes the most dangerous, often suicidal contracts, venturing into cursed territories, hunting in forbidden zones, doing jobs that guarantee death for most wolves. The Shadowvale Forest, known for consuming those who enter, represents her acceptance and invitation of death. Her bone-deep weariness and resignation to dying set up the inciting incident when she stumbles upon a dark ritual sacrifice already in progress, forcing her to make a choice: walk past or intervene one final time. Chapter 1. Kelia traced the scars with her fingertips, 3 parallel ridges of pale, raised tissue that ran from her left eye down to her jaw. The motion was unconscious now, a habit born from 7 years of carrying the marks. Her reflection in the blade she was sharpening showed what everyone else saw: a monster. The scars had healed twisted and thick, pulling at her skin even now, a permanent disfigurement that marked her as something other. She'd been 16 when the claws tore through her face. The memory came unbidden, as it always did when she touched the scars. The massive rogue assault had appeared without warning, dozens of them, feral and coordinated in a way that defied nature. Her pack had fought. Her pack had died. Every single one of them, torn apart in the clearing that had been their home. But before they fell, they'd turned on her. "You brought this," her father had screamed, blood streaming from his wounds. "Cursed. You're cursed." The pack had taken up the cry even as the rogues closed in. Death-touched. Omen of destruction. Monster. Their final words had been condemnation, not love, and then the rogues had finished what they started. Everyone dead. Everyone except her. The other packs had refused her afterward. Word spread fast. The sole survivor of a massacre, marked by massive claws, blamed by her own blood before they died. Monstrous, they called her. Death follows where she walks. No pack would risk the curse she carried, so she'd made peace with it. If death followed her, she'd walk straight into its jaws. The mercenary contracts came easy after that. The jobs no one else would take. Cursed territories where wolves vanished without trace. Forbidden zones marked by ancient warnings. Guaranteed death missions that paid well because no one expected the mercenary to survive long enough to collect. Kelia took them all. The Shadowvale Forest contract sat on the table before her now, the parchment worn and stained. Retrieve an ancient artifact from the forest's heart. Simple words that meant certain death. 90% of those who entered never came out, and the 10% who did came back broken, speaking of shadows that moved wrong and trees that whispered names. She studied the map, noting the marked paths that led nowhere, the warnings scrawled in desperate hands. Turn back. The forest hungers. Death walks here. Let it, Kelia murmured, rolling the contract carefully. Her pack had named her cursed, had blamed her for their deaths with their last breaths. Every pack since had seen the scars and turned away in fear. If the forest wanted her life, it could have it. At least death was honest. At least death didn't pretend to care before it struck. She gathered her weapons, silver blade, iron dagger, supplies for 3 days, though she doubted she'd need them. The forest would take her quickly, or she'd retrieve the artifact and face the next death mission after. Either way, the outcome was the same eventually. The Shadowvale's edge appeared through morning mist, trees twisted and dark even in daylight. Kelia stepped past the boundary markers without hesitation, feeling the temperature drop instantly. The air tasted wrong here, thick and cloying. Then she heard it. Chanting. Low and rhythmic, echoing through the twisted trees from somewhere deep within. The words were old, guttural, speaking in a tongue she didn't know but that made her scars burn. And beneath the chanting, the smell of blood, fresh and abundant, mixed with something darker. Magic. Old magic. Wrong magic. Kelia's hand moved to her blade. Something evil was happening in the Shadow Vial's heart, and she was walking straight toward it. Chapter 2. The chanting grew louder as Kelia pushed deeper into the Shadow Veil, leading her through twisted corridors of blackened trees until the forest opened into a clearing that reeked of death. Blood cultists. 7 of them in ceremonial robes the color of dried blood, circling an altar constructed entirely of bones. Wolf bones, she realized with a chill. Human bones. Things that shouldn't exist. Dark runes carved into the earth pulsed with sickly light, and the air itself felt thick with forbidden magic that made her skin crawl. But it was the altar center that stopped her breath. A wolf pup. Small, maybe 3 months old, bound with chains that glowed with the same corrupt light as the runes. But this wasn't an ordinary pup. Its fur held a mystical silver shimmer, like starlight had been woven into each strand. Blood matted its coat where the chains cut deep, and its eyes, ancient and aware beyond its age, found Kelia's through the darkness. The cultists' chanting intensified, their voices rising in terrible harmony. Kelia understood now what she was witnessing. They were summoning something ancient, something that should have stayed buried. And they were using the pup's blood as a conduit, its mystical nature the key to tearing open doors that should remain closed forever. Walk away. The thought came sharp and clear. This wasn't her contract. This wasn't her death to choose. She'd come here to die alone, to let the forest claim her cursed existence without dragging anyone else into it. The pup whimpered, a sound of pure agony. Kelia's hand tightened on her blade. Not this, she whispered. Not an innocent. She'd die anyway. Today, tomorrow, the next death mission after. That future was certain, carved into her fate as deeply as the scars on her face. But maybe, just once, she could die for something instead of nothing. Maybe she could save something pure before the darkness took her too. She moved like death itself. The first cultist fell before the chanting stopped, his throat opened by her silver blade. The second died reaching for his weapon, iron dagger, through his heart. Kelia fought with the brutal efficiency of someone who'd accepted death long ago. No hesitation, no mercy, just savage precision honed through years of suicidal missions. 3 more fell in quick succession, blood spraying across profane runes. The cult leader turned from the altar, eyes burning with corrupted power. His blade appeared in his hand, forged from something wrong, something cursed. They met in the center of the clearing, and Kelia was faster, stronger, better. The blade punched through her abdomen. Ice and fire exploded through her body simultaneously. Dark magic poison, spreading from the wound like living corruption. Kelia felt it racing through her veins, felt her heart stuttering, felt her strength bleeding away with her blood. She killed the cult leader anyway, driving her silver blade up through his ribs even as she fell. The remaining cultist fled into the forest. Kelia crawled. Each movement sent agony screaming through her body, the dark magic devouring her from inside. Blood pooled beneath her, too much blood, and her vision swam with black spots. But she reached the altar. Her shaking hands found the chains binding the pup, and she cut through them with the last of her strength. The pup stumbled free, silver fur matted with blood but eyes still ancient and aware. Kelia's heart stopped. She felt it happen, the dark magic finally reaching its target, squeezing until the muscle gave out. Her blood spread across the cursed earth in a growing pool. Her breathing ceased. The darkness rushed in, complete and total, and her final thought drifted through dying consciousness like a prayer. This is better. I saved something pure. I died for something good. That's more than I deserve. The darkness took her. Complete. Final. Absolute. Death claimed the Death Seeker at last. Chapter 3. Void. Absolute nothingness stretched in every direction, darker than darkness, emptier than empty. Kelia floated in it, consciousness without form, thought without body. Death felt like this, then peaceful. Final. Then came pressure. Not physical. Something deeper, more fundamental. A presence so massive it bent the fabric of reality itself, warping the void around her like gravity around a star. Kilia's formless awareness recoiled from the sheer magnitude of it. This was power beyond comprehension, ancient and terrible and vast. Light exploded through the darkness. A form manifested before her, godlike and impossible. Masculine, towering, built from storm and fury and divine wrath. His eyes burned like lightning storms trapped in flesh, crackling with barely contained power. When he moved, the space between death and life rippled, this liminal realm where gods walked bending to accommodate his presence. His voice rolled across the void like thunder across mountains. Who dares harm my sacred guardian's bloodline? The fury in those words shattered the air itself. Kilia felt herself pulled, consciousness dragged back toward something, her body. She realized dimly. The clearing, the altar, the pup. Valor Stormfang, because she knew his name now, could feel it resonating through her very soul, stood over her corpse. His physical manifestation made the cultist's magic look like candle flame before an inferno. He was God made flesh, divinity barely contained in mortal form, and his rage at finding his sacred guardian's pup nearly sacrificed to darkness made the forest itself tremble. But his eyes found the dead cultists surrounding Kilia's body, found the chains cut open, found the pup freed, huddled against her cooling corpse, silver fur pressed against her bloody hand. The god went absolutely still. Then she felt it, a connection slamming into existence between them like a physical blow. The soul bond, ancient and prophesied, appearing once in a millennium to bind God to mortal as equals. Not master and servant. Not deity and worshipper. Equals. Partners. Two halves of an impossible whole. Shock rippled through Valor's divine presence. You. His voice came softer now, but no less powerful, thunder distant but approaching. It's you. After millennia of waiting. He knelt beside her body, this god of storms and fury, and his lightning eyes traced the scars on her face. The cultist blood on her hands. The fatal wound that had stolen her life even as she saved his most sacred charge. You died protecting what is most sacred to me. His voice held something like wonder now, like reverence. Your courage, your sacrifice, it cannot go unrewarded. Valor placed his hand over her still heart. Divine power flooded through her. Agony. Agonizing, burning, absolute agony as life force poured back into dead flesh like liquid lightning. Kilia screamed, or tried to, but she had no breath yet. Her wounds sealed with divine fire that burned away the dark magic poison, healing tissue and bone with power that remade her from the inside out. Her heart convulsed, then beat. Once. Twice. Again. Her lungs expanded, dragging in air that tasted like ozone and storm. Her eyes flew open. Valor's face filled her vision, lightning eyes locked on hers, his hand still pressed over her heart where divinity poured into mortal flesh. She could feel it changing her, fundamentally altering her on a cellular level. Immortality binding to her very existence, rewriting her mortality into something new. Welcome back, soul bonded, the god rumbled, and despite the pain, despite the impossibility, Kilia saw something in those ancient eyes that looked almost like hope. We have much to discuss. The darkness that had claimed her was gone, but what had taken its place was so much more terrifying. Chapter 4. Kilia woke to impossible beauty. She lay in a forest that couldn't exist, trees made of crystallized light, ground carpeted with flowers that glowed like captured stars, sky painted with aurora colors that shifted and danced. The air itself shimmered with divine energy, and she realized with growing horror that this place existed between worlds, suspended in the space where mortal and divine touched. Memory crashed back. The cultists. The pup. The blade through her abdomen. Death. Sweet, final death. Understanding followed, and with it came rage. I was dead. Her voice came out rough, shaking with fury as she pushed to her feet. I was finally free. What did you do? Valor stood beneath one of the crystallized trees, the silver pup. No. Astrid. She knew the name somehow, pressed against his leg. In this realm, his divine nature blazed fully visible. Not just a god. The god. The legendary alpha god from ancient texts, ruler of the divine wild, keeper of cosmic balance. Power radiated from him in waves that made her bones vibrate. I saved you, he said simply, as if it were that easy. I didn't want to be saved. Kilia's hands clenched into fists. I went into that forest to die. That was the point. That was supposed to be the Yendi. Astrid is the offspring of my sacred guardian wolf. Valor's lightning eyes never left her face. The last of a divine bloodline stretching back to the first dawn. Those cultists would have used her blood to tear open the abyss itself. You stopped them. You died for her. And that was supposed to be it. Kilia shouted. I saved something innocent, and then I got to rest. That's all I wanted. That's all. You are my soul bond. The words cut through her fury like a blade. My prophesied equal. Your death would have shattered the cosmic balance. Kilia stared at him, then laughed, harsh, bitter, disbelieving.
I am nobody.
A cursed mercenary who was supposed to die in that forest. You made a mistake. Valor moved closer, and despite herself, Kilia felt the bond between them thrumming like a living thing. It terrified her more than any death mission ever had. Gods do not make mistakes. His voice held absolute certainty. You are mine now. Immortal. Bound to me across eternity.
No.
The word came out broken. No, I didn't ask for this. You had no right. You stole my death. You asked when you spilled blood to protect what belongs to me. Valor stopped directly before her, towering and unmovable as a mountain. The universe answered. You are mine, Kilia Razan. My goddess.
My equal.
My eternal mate. Accept it or fight it. You have eternity to decide. His eyes flashed with lightning. But you will never die again. The words hit like physical blows. Kilia's hand went to her face, tracing the scars that had marked her as cursed, as monstrous, as death-touched. 7 years she'd carried them. 7 years of rejection and isolation, and accepting that her only escape was the grave. And now even that was gone. I'm trapped forever in this cursed body, she whispered, horror creeping through her voice. With these scars. With this face that makes everyone turn away. And now I can't even die. Her eyes found his, desperate and furious. You call this a gift? This is a nightmare. This is hell. This is destiny. Valor reached out, and she flinched back. He let his hand drop, but didn't retreat. You see curse. I see strength. You see scars. I see survival. You see death touched. I see the only mortal in a millennium brave enough to charge into certain death to save an innocent. His voice softened, just slightly. You are no longer cursed, Kilia. You are divine. My equal. Whether you want it or not. Kilia closed her eyes, feeling the immortality settling into her bones like chains. She'd sought death and found eternity instead. Chapter 5. 3 weeks in paradise felt like torture. Kilia fought her fate with everything she had. When Valor tried to explain her new powers, divine magic that now sang through her veins, she refused to listen. When he attempted training, she lashed out with such violence that the ethereal realm itself shuddered. Her rage had nowhere to go, no death missions to funnel it into, no suicidal contracts to accept. So it exploded. The first time it happened, she'd been screaming at him about the injustice of it all, and silver light had erupted from her hands like lightning. Divine energy, wild and uncontrolled, blasting through trees and scorching the glowing ground. Valor had simply stood there, unmoved, watching her power tear through his realm. Good, he'd said calmly. Your emotions are the catalyst. Rage for centuries if you need to. We have time. That had made her angrier. The scars had changed too. The 3 parallel ridges that marked her face now shimmered with divine energy, glowing silver whenever her emotions peaked. When she was angry, which was constant, they blazed like captured starlight. Another reminder that she wasn't even allowed to be human anymore, let alone mortal. Astrid followed her everywhere. The silver pup had imprinted on her completely, seeing Kelia as mother, protector, savior. Those ancient eyes watched her with absolute adoration, and the pup refused to leave her side no matter how much Kelia tried to push her away. I'm not your mother, Kelia had snarled once. Astrid had simply wagged her tail and pressed closer. Today, Kelia found herself at the edge of a divine pool, water so clear it reflected like perfect glass. She'd been avoiding her reflection since the resurrection, not wanting to see what divinity had done to her. But curiosity or masochism or simple exhaustion finally drew her to the water's edge. The face that looked back stole her breath. She was more powerful now. Anyone could see it. Strength radiated from her in visible waves, divine energy crackling just beneath her skin. Her eyes held light that hadn't been there before, ancient and aware like Astrid's. She looked like what she was, a goddess. But the scars remained. 3 parallel ridges from left eye to jaw, pale and raised and twisted. Still disfiguring. Still marking her as broken. Even glowing with silver light, they were ugly, brutal, wrong. Even divinity couldn't fix what's broken about me. Her voice cracked as tears burned her eyes. I'm still a monster. Now I'm just an immortal one. I don't want to fix you.
Kylia spoon.
Valor stood behind her, having materialized with that unsettling godly silence. His lightning eyes were fixed on her face, not avoiding the scars the way everyone else always did, but looking directly at them. You're already perfect, he continued, moving closer. Perfect. Kelia gestured violently at her reflection. Look at me. I'm scarred. I'm cursed. I'm a survivor. His voice cut through her spiral with absolute certainty. Your scars don't make you cursed, Kelia. They prove you survived something that killed everyone else. They prove you're strong enough to carry divine power without breaking. Everyone who's ever seen them has called me monstrous. Everyone who saw them was a fool. Valor stopped directly before her, close enough that she could feel the divine power radiating from him. I am ancient. I have walked this world since the first dawn. I have seen beauty in every form imaginable. His hand lifted slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he traced one scarred ridge with impossible gentleness. And I have never seen anyone more perfect than you. Kelia's breath caught. The sincerity in his voice was undeniable, resonating through their bond like truth made solid. He meant it. This god, this ancient, powerful being who could have anyone, anything, genuinely believed she was perfect. With her scars, not despite them. The first crack appeared in her armor. I don't understand you, she whispered, confusion bleeding through the anger that had sustained her for weeks. I know. Valor's thumb brushed across the lowest scar with reverence. We have eternity for you to learn. Chapter 6. Valor took her deeper into his realm the next day, past the aurora-lit forests she'd been confined to, into places that made her breath catch despite her resistance. Ancient primordial forests stretched in every direction, older than memory, older than civilization itself. Divine creatures moved through the undergrowth, wolves with starlight fur like Astrid, stags with antlers made of living crystal, birds that sang with voices like wind chimes. This was the sacred wild, Valor explained, the place where magic itself had been born at the dawn of creation. I have walked these paths alone for millennia, he said quietly, watching her take in the impossible beauty. Gods rarely bond. We are too vast, too different from mortals, too eternal. His lightning eyes found hers. I accepted my isolation, believed it was my fate to rule the divine wild without equal, without partner, without someone who understands. Kelia finished, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Yes. Something in his expression softened. The soul bond appears once every 1,000 years at most. It binds two souls as perfect equals, not god and worshipper, not master and servant. True equals in every way that matters. He moved closer and she didn't retreat this time. I didn't choose you to be cruel, Kelia. Fate chose you because you're exactly my equal. Your strength, your courage, your willingness to die for what's right. That's divine. That's what makes you worthy of immortality. I'm scarred and broken and cursed. You're beautiful. The words came with such conviction that they struck her like physical force. Your scars are the most beautiful thing about you. They prove what you've survived, what you've overcome. Every time I look at them, I see a warrior who faced impossible odds and lived. That's divine, Kelia. That's goddess-worthy. The bond between them thrummed, resonating with truth. Kelia felt something shifting inside her chest, unwilling attraction, terrifying connection, the pulse she'd been fighting since the resurrection. He meant every word. This ancient god looked at her ruined face and saw beauty, saw strength, saw everything she'd been told she wasn't. It was more frightening than any death mission. I've been alone too long, she whispered, taking a step back. 7 years of isolation, of everyone turning away. I don't know how to trust this. I don't know how to believe that you, actually. Thunder cracked across the divine realm. Vaylor's head snapped up, Divine's senses flaring. Astrid materialized beside him, the pup's fur bristling with sudden alarm. The air itself shifted, tasting wrong, familiar wrong. Dark magic. What is it? Kelia demanded, her own new senses tingling with warning. The cult. Vaylor's voice had gone cold, fury building behind his words. They've discovered you survived. They know you're bound to me now. Another crack of corrupted energy rippled through the realm's boundaries. Kelia could feel it, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, gathering just beyond the divine borders. The same dark magic that had poisoned her, that had nearly killed Astrid, now focused with terrible purpose. They want me dead. Understanding crashed through her. They think if they kill your soul bond, they weaken me, shatter the cosmic balance, open the way for the ancient darkness they serve. Vaylor's lightning eyes blazed with barely contained wrath. You are my greatest strength, Kelia. But to them, you are my weakness. Destroy the goddess, destroy the god. Kelia felt divine power surge through her veins, responding to the threat. The scars on her face blazed silver. For weeks she'd fought against this fate, raged against the immortality forced upon her. But these cultists had tried to murder an innocent pup, had poisoned her with dark magic. And now they wanted to use her death, her eternal death, as a weapon against the one being in existence who looked at her scars and saw beauty. Let them come, she said, voice steady and cold. I died once protecting what's yours. I won't let them take it again. Vaylor looked at her, and something like pride flickered across his divine features. Then we fight together. As equals. Chapter 7. The cultists tore through reality itself. Kelia felt the breach like a wound in the world, forbidden blood magic ripping open the boundaries of Vaylor's realm, corrupted power flooding through like poison. Dozens of them poured into the sacred wild, their ceremonial robes stained with fresh sacrifice, dark runes carved into their flesh. Stay behind me, Vaylor commanded, divine fury building around him like a storm. Kelia stepped forward instead. I'm immortal now, remember? You made sure I can't die. Silver light blazed along her scars as power surged through her veins. So, let's use it. The first cultist died before he finished his chant. Kelia moved with the brutal efficiency she'd honed through years of death missions, but now her mortal warrior skills combined with something far more devastating. Divine magic erupted from her hands in silver lightning, incinerating 3 cultists simultaneously. She was fast, impossibly fast, and strong enough to tear through corrupted flesh like paper. A cultist drove a cursed blade toward her heart. She caught his wrist, felt her divine power flare, and watched his bones turn to ash inside his skin. "Now you see what you truly are," Valor's voice rumbled beside her, filled with awe and something darker, hungrier, magnificent. They fought as one, god and goddess moving in perfect synchronization. Where Valor struck with thunder and lightning, Kelia followed with silver fire and savage precision. The cultists fell like wheat before a scythe, their forbidden magic nothing compared to true divine power unleashed. The last cultist fled back through the breach, and Valor sealed it with a gesture that made reality itself shudder. Silence fell across the sacred wild. Kelia stood among the bodies, breathing hard, divine energy still crackling across her skin. Her scars blazed so bright, they cast silver light across the ground. She'd never felt power like this. Devastating, absolute, terrifying. "You're bleeding." Valor appeared beside her, his hand catching her arm where a blade had grazed her. "It'll heal." But she didn't pull away as his divine magic flowed into the wound, knitting flesh with warmth that spread beyond the injury. His touch lingered, charged with the bond between them, and Kelia felt her breath catch. "They'll return stronger," Valor said quietly, his lightning eyes never leaving her face. "This was just reconnaissance. They wanted to see what you could do. And now they know." Kelia finally stepped back, breaking contact before the pull between them overwhelmed her completely. "I don't know how to be what you need me to be. A goddess. You're equal. I'm just. You already are." His voice held absolute conviction. "You just refuse to see it." Thunder rolled across the realm, but this time it wasn't from attack. Kelia turned and felt her heart stop. A massive divine wolf emerged from the primordial forest, easily twice Valor's height, for like captured moonlight, eyes ancient as creation itself. This was Astrid's parent, the sacred guardian, a being of pure divine power that had existed since the first dawn. The great wolf moved toward Kelia with deliberate steps, then bowed. Its massive head lowered in unmistakable acknowledgement, recognizing her as Alpha Goddess, accepting her divinity as equal to Valor's own. Behind it, other divine creatures emerged from the sacred wild, the crystal-antlered stags, the starlight birds, wolves of every size and color, all bowing to her. "They know what you are," Valor said softly. "Even if you don't yet." Kelia stared at the sacred guardian, at the divine creatures acknowledging her as their goddess, and felt something fundamental shift inside her chest. She couldn't keep running from this. Couldn't keep pretending she was still just a cursed mercenary seeking death. But accepting it meant accepting everything. The immortality. The bond. Valor. Forever. "If I accept this," she whispered, "I can never go back. I'll be bound to you for eternity. I'll be." She met his eyes, letting him see the terror beneath her strength. "I'll be yours." "Yes."
No hesitation, no uncertainty.
"Just as I am yours." The sacred guardian lifted its head, ancient eyes fixed on Kelia with patient expectation. The choice was hers. It had always been hers. Chapter 8. The sky itself tore open. Hundreds of cultists materialized at once, their combined forbidden magic ripping through reality with apocalyptic force. This wasn't reconnaissance. This was total war. The barrier between mortal and divine realms shuddered, cracking under the assault, and Kelia could see the ancient darkness writhing behind it, hungry and vast and patient. If they succeeded, both realms would be consumed. "Protect the sacred wild." Valor's command thundered across the battlefield. Divine creatures rallied, the sacred guardian leading the charge with primal fury. Kelia fought at the front lines, silver lightning erupting from her hands as she tore through cultist ranks. Her mortal warrior instincts combined with divine power made her devastating. She was death incarnate, savage and precise, and unstoppable. The Scarred One. The cult leader's voice cut across the chaos. Kill the Scarred One. Break the god. They came at her in waves. Kelia cut them down, but there were too many, and these cultists carried weapons specifically designed to kill immortals, blades forged in corrupted divinity, magic that bypassed healing, poison that targeted eternal souls. The first blade punched through her shoulder. Dark corruption spread like ice. The second caught her ribs. More poison, more death magic. The third drove through her thigh, and Kelia felt her divine power stuttering, failing. The corruption was spreading faster than she could heal, designed specifically to destroy what Valor had made her. She was dying again, truly dying, and this time it would take more than just her. The soulbond screamed in agony. Valor felt it across the battlefield, felt her life force failing, felt the corruption devouring her divinity, felt the bond between them beginning to shatter. His anguish broke through millennia of godly control like a dam bursting. Reality itself bent. Valor manifested in his true apocalyptic divine form, not the restrained version he'd shown her, but the full terrifying magnitude of the Alpha God unleashed. His power didn't just shake the realm, it rewrote the laws of physics around him. Lightning didn't fall from the sky, it erupted from his very existence. Thunder wasn't sound, it was the universe screaming. The cultists died screaming. He obliterated them with divine fury that made the barrier between realms stabilize from sheer force of his will. Hundreds fell to ash in seconds. The cult leader tried to flee and was vaporized mid-step. Valor's wrath was absolute, apocalyptic, beautiful and terrible in equal measure. Then he was beside Kelia, gathering her dying body against his chest with hands that trembled. The godly fury drained away, replaced by raw anguish.
No.
No, you don't leave me. Not after I finally found you. His voice broke, this ancient being reduced to desperate pleading. You are not a monster, Kelia. You are my monster. Mine to protect, mine to cherish, mine to worship for all eternity. Kelia's vision swam with darkness, but his words cut through like light.
Meaning?
He'd called her his. Not despite the scars, not despite the curse everyone else saw. Because of who she was, warrior, survivor, his equal. Epiphany struck like lightning. She'd spent 8 years punishing herself for surviving. 8 years believing the pack's dying words, accepting their condemnation as truth. 8 years courting death because she thought she deserved it. But her scars didn't make her cursed. They made her a warrior, a survivor. Someone strong enough to carry divine power without breaking. Someone worthy of being a goddess. I've spent 8 years courting death, she whispered, her hand finding his face. You gave me life. Real life. The corruption still spread, but something else rose to meet it, her own divine power, fully accepting what it was. I choose it. I choose you. I choose to become what I was always meant to be. She stopped fighting the bond. The explosion of merged divine power obliterated the corruption instantly. Silver and lightning intertwined, god and goddess becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. The soul bond completed fully, ancient prophecy fulfilled, and their combined magic didn't just restore balance. It reinforced it, strengthened it, made it unbreakable. Kelia felt the wounds heal, felt immortality settle into her bones not as a curse, but as a gift. Felt Valor's presence in her soul, eternal and certain and hers. She opened her eyes to find him staring at her with wonder. There you are, he breathed. My goddess. My equal.
Meaning?
Yours, Kelia agreed, and meant it completely. Forever.
Chapter 9.
The ascension began at dawn. Cosmic energy gathered around Kelia as the divine ritual activated, ancient magic responding to her complete acceptance of the soul bond. This wasn't just resurrection or immortality anymore. This was full transformation into what she was always meant to become. Alpha Goddess. Divine power flooded through every cell, remaking her on a fundamental level. Kelia felt her mortal limitations burning away, felt godhood settling into her bones like coming home. But the most profound change came to her scars. The 3 parallel ridges didn't disappear. Instead, they transformed. Silver lightning blazed across her face in permanent luminous marks, beautiful and terrible, radiating divine power that made reality shimmer around them. No longer wounds. No longer disfigurement. They were symbols of divine strength now, proof of survival, marks that declared to all existence that she had faced death and emerged as something greater. They were magnificent. Kelia looked at her reflection in the divine pool and finally saw what Valor had always seen, a warrior goddess, scarred and powerful and perfect. Now, she said, turning to face the remaining cultists who'd regrouped at the realm's edge, let's finish this. Together, God and Goddess unleashed apocalyptic power. Kelia combined mortal warrior ferocity with divine magic in ways that made Valor's ancient eyes widen with awe. She was unstoppable, lightning and blade, mercy and wrath, death and life intertwined. They tore through the cult's forces like a storm, erasing them from existence, then sealed the ancient darkness they'd tried to summon behind barriers that would hold until the end of time itself. When silence finally fell, Valor pulled her close. The eternal claiming, he said, voice resonating with power and reverence. Not a mortal ceremony. A cosmic divine binding across all realms, all lifetimes, all existence. Then claim me, Kelia replied, her scarred face tilted up to his. And I claim you in return. Their power merged as they spoke the ancient words, binding themselves together not through fate or force, but through choice. Equals. Partners. God and Goddess choosing each other across eternity. When Kelia marked Valor with her own divine seal, silver lightning matching the scars on her face, his cosmic presence shuddered with reverence. Their union created new balance between mortal and divine realms, reinforcing cosmic order, making it unbreakable. The sacred guardian wolf bowed first, massive form lowering in acknowledgement of its new alpha goddess. Behind it, every divine creature in the realm followed, wolves of starlight and moonbeam, crystal stags, aurora birds, all recognizing Kelia's ascension. She had sought death and found divinity instead. Centuries later, shrines dedicated to the scarred goddess appeared across both realms, mortal and divine. Outcasts prayed to her. The broken sought her blessing. Those who felt cursed, monstrous, unworthy whispered her name with desperate hope. She answered them all. Kelia and Valor ruled as eternal equals, alpha god and goddess, maintaining cosmic balance while walking among mortals who needed them. Astrid, now ancient and wise beyond measure, led a pack of sacred guardian wolves that protected the boundaries between worlds. On this particular evening, Kelia felt a prayer calling to her, young, desperate, familiar in its self-loathing. She manifested in a small shrine built in her honor, her divine form radiant and terrible. A scarred young warrior knelt before her altar, face hidden, body shaking with suppressed sobs. 3 claw marks ran down their neck, recent, brutal, disfiguring. I'm cursed, the warrior whispered. A monster. Death follows me. I should just stop. Kelia's voice was gentle but absolute. The warrior's head snapped up, eyes widening in shock at finding the goddess herself standing before them. Kelia knelt, bringing herself to their level, and reached out to trace the fresh scars with reverent fingers. These marks are not curses, she said, her own luminous scars blazing with silver light. They are proof you survived what should have killed you. Proof you're strong enough to become divine. She cupped the warrior's face with infinite tenderness. You are not a monster. You are my child. And you are magnificent. The warriors stared at her, seeing their own scars reflected in their goddess's glowing marks. I was like you once, Kelia continued. I sought death for years, believing I was cursed, believing I deserved to die alone and unmourned. She smiled, and it was beautiful and fierce. But I learned that scars don't define worthiness. Choice and acceptance do. You can choose to see yourself as broken, or you can choose to see yourself as a survivor strong enough to carry your pain and transform it into power. I don't know how, the warrior whispered. Then I'll teach you. Kelia pulled them into an embrace, goddess holding broken warrior, divine power flowing between them like healing light. That's what I'm here for. To remind every scarred soul that they are worthy, that they are divine, that their marks prove their strength, not their weakness. Above them, Valor watched from the realm's edge, lightning eyes soft with love for his eternal mate. The death-seeking mercenary had become an immortal goddess, and she spent eternity proving that scars were not curses but crowns.